Okay, so hey, Dream Plants every day. It's been a while since I heard that one. I've been kicking around.
6 o'clock, got her going before the sun comes up. Make sure that rooster is up. Hear me banging that chisel out here this morning.
That's right. Playing for it. I forgot how good this setup was for a training model. I was just going through it looking for some gemstones, but man, she's pretty good. And back in the days when some of that's real dirty and rough for me, uh, it's still working just around COVID timeline. It just started to come out with the news. Of course, that was this page. I was deep into it for all kinds of fun stuff. Oh, just all kinds of fun stuff.
Okay, I'm continuing.
Let's see what we got here.
Drink plants every day. Jordan Scova coming at you from the STEM lab.
Put you over here this time. Put you on the left. See what you.
Do a regular Master Mason's note today. Just a day review, half a day review. Where are we at? What we doing? What was on the plate? Where are we going with it? What's gravity today? What is on my plate that I have to maintain focus for running on the set? So we start over here by orders and commands. You know what's coming
Steel
down,
beam, man.
how they wanted stuff set up, how they wanted stuff moving.
And some of these are pretty good, but this one's from Johnson Road. You see some from Gustin's. I didn't really get the chance over there at Delaware Basin, and they would have been awesome 5-foot saws. Jurassic Park, talking about the Raptors over there, old blue. Echo, Delta, oh yeah, which ones are doing what, and so is, from my perspective, it's one of those things that I didn't really get. There's notes about how some of some of those steel beams you're gonna run into in terms of the foundation of why it was built the way it was built. So it takes this kind of backlog interpretation or a check off before you get really cleared on those things. You got to clear your TikTok stuff with the military. This is a bit of freehand where the resume is going to go a little bit farther because you're not going to find a lot of stuff. I get pretty heavy with some stuff, NP problem, but I'm also doing that in a very wide spectrum when I'm doing something like the PT, NP, the PT, NP, PT test, or MPE, PT, NP, MP problem. It's policing this college experiment around and the multiple universes it could go. We could talk about economics, we could talk about engineering, we could talk about physics, talk about chemistry. Again, as a fluorohydramonium acid system, and you have to spring over those rocks. Those rocks are the answers that kind of just melt that situation. For chemistry, right? Sulfuric acid, purified gold in the system, silver, whatever, AuAX, whatever, silica, rock, time, variable, hydrogen number one supremo. So of course that goes with photons banging around on the shop floor. That goes with, those neutrinos that affect that, the impossible muon.
How they doing? So let's start by saying we got some beautiful. I gotta pick that out, but
Beautiful.
32s, cutting them up,
Beautiful.
off a big tread off the top edge, pulling that off, and saving that for another cut later, 12.
12. Probably 7 foot long, 2 inch.
Some beautiful,
Oh yeah.
beautiful 8s and 7 footers. Just look at that tread right there. A little dirty, you spray her off, but oh my goodness, tight, right, looking good. Oh my goodness. So we're offloading.
And so what I'm trying to develop is now how to offset that skill, how to kind of hand off that detail as much as operate this as the safety standards. It comes back around what happened in the incident. This was your standard overhead to the underhead. One of the harder practices is actually trying to teach something. So even though it doesn't seem like I'm teaching something, this was also set in a design frame where it's supposed to be in this shop. That's where this saw's cleanliness, because it won't be. You'll see it piled up over in here. And so days and days and days and days and days, why doesn't that come up? because in here when the camera's off between these paradoxes, I tear that stuff down while the saw is cutting through here. Or, I'll pick at it with the shovel while it's kicking, and then I'll come around the back side because this side's fairly safe, and a lot of times for operations and water systems, and you clear that system. There is a physics to it. There's clearing material. How deep is it in the cut? Is this common things? Are you cleared for the timeline to do something like that? So actually this ditch time makes it a lot safer. It takes a lot easier. Operations are done. If I had a thermaler, if I didn't have a thermaler, if I'm not thermaling, thermaling takes up a lot of that operation for the day. But every once in a while you hit up a set that's done, and instead of over thermaling extra pieces, stay within the rotations of the set. Take a little time to pick off that mud. You're always moving, it's kind of different, always using different muscles and staying loose like that. And believe me, that's back in 18 when I was brick. You're pulling stuff off the table by hand, flipping through tread pallets, and some of these other brothers I'm working with know the game. They've seen some of this. But a lot of this is going to play a lot of the 5-footers and stuff like that. But this is new, so it takes a little bit of adjustment. Me, I had to do it through brute force, trial and error. Of course, I didn't bring the camera to the training phase, so I could take that home. There wasn't really a terminal set there. It's just memorization of the steps and having somebody close by as a manager to train you with those systems. I had a lot of early development on the pallets, but you still need kind of the team to give you that first setup. Generally what you do is you set up your pallets, but I would have 1x1s, 1x2s, 1x1, 1x18, 1x2s, 1x3s all set up on certain pallets. I knew I'd get a lot of them, and then 2x3s you wouldn't, or 1x3 you wouldn't get a lot of them, so I put them onto the 1x26s, or 1x26s. No, 1x2s, 1x26s, 1x3s, and I would make columns or rows, or I would just make up a pallet of those and separate them out to save up on pallet space if I was just ripping or something like that, and so those kinds of ground techniques become that matrix of all the pattern calc. It's too much to go through the yard. You can't just make, it's a big yard by footage. Unless you're going to do something, make it here for the overhead while you're cutting for an order. If you're not making something, you're ripping it for pattern, they would be off on one size, and then you would lay them all in there, separate them out. There's a couple of different techniques to it, and the ground makes a lot of that technique what it is. So, for me, I never got a lot of the quarry. I do have some loader experience in some of the bigger forklifts, enough to get in them, turn them on, move them around, do stuff with them. Some stuff over to Gustin's with moving buckets around and just using a loader. But realistically, not really loading in block, but I've put a lot of rock on this table, a lot of tread rock, a lot of tread cakes on this, cutting for nights, 12-footers where I'm in here with rocks that's hanging over, so I'll get the sledgehammer in here and just bust off an end. It can't cut that, it'll lock up the saw, I can't push through it, so I'll just take it off. Get in there with the Judge, the 16-pound hammer, you make that video. There's a reason they call that the Judge.
Be turning and burning.
Yeah, I'll be hitting them both.
Burning, stacks up on the table,
throw them up.
How clean the material is. I'll be separating out. I'll be working this material.
So again, you want to get this to, well, for me specifically, it's to get it to Steven right now. And then by ipso facto principle, try to get it off to Donnie, because it's going to go in that order for me, because 1, the oligarchy, 2, it's a better techniquing when I think about what I used to hear in the office, what I used to hear for the paperwork lines. There's the trucking, there's the operational things, which starts to be a department by degrees plus skill sets of just, instead of, giving that bullshit to it, we're giving you the degree that makes you big house in hand, because this is a limited spot in stable. And so what that does is it gives you a lot of that. It gives you a lot of that. Say, for certain terms, when you differ from certain degrees, because it's pretty much this all the time. And when I'm doing that, like I said, that can go way outside, and I think Donnie provides an awesome characteristic to it on additional facets that he's bringing to the table. I keep an eye on all the marshmallows, all the working jewels. Those little dragons. So it doesn't matter who they are, because usually catches the wiggly, squiggly, fuzzy bunny. Whether it's a good one or a bad one, is it skipping away from you going to be an issue, or is it... Joe.
If I'm running doubles or if I'm running singles, I got to set that on the saw. Lots of cleanup time. I got some organization to do today.
You know, I want to be able to set this up into Steven and then have him hit me. Like I'm just your camera guy right now from the Venomous Animal a guy. We got I think Tyler Nolan. He just did one feeding his rattlesnakes and his bigger snakes and stuff like that. And you got the camera guy on Apprentice getting his hours to handle venomous snakes. You do that by going to somebody with the license and volunteer, getting that stuff written down through leisures over time so you get the permits. Well, here the permits are there by just like general ground law Haven Way. But the degree kind of is backed up by these functions because then you can say, well, my resume is that overhead camera.
Always in the check, I'm usually just walking back and forth here pacing with laser beam vision. What's out of place? What doesn't look right? Do I have time to do it? Is that the function? And, usually it's just keeping the crazies at bay. It's just easier for me to focus on, what work and numbers, but it's also easy to get kicked into other people's bubbles and stuff like that.
When you're running,
grind it out.
When you're grinding, this isn't the tread line though. I want to be different about that, or just the thermaler spot. You're doing a lot of that there. And what I'm doing now for bays and stuff like that is a lot of that same stuff. There's not a lot of time to slow down once you know it. Again, I said it in one of my other videos. Just because you know stone don't mean that you'll know shit for operations or how those saws work. So it immediately undercurrents you right into the ground. And, you always want to be mindful of that no matter who it is. But again, this information can be presented and we want it for a lot of reasons. We want to use it against this guy later if it comes up because it's right out here, fire starter that they are.
Right, figure it out. Quantum tunnel, man, you digging. So I just want to throw that out there.
Dripping fluorohydrobonia, man. Looking for those bunnies.
How I want to process mechanics. It's easy. It gets super easy after you figure out.
Like I said, bring them in.
The momentum of the situation.
Obviously on the high end, not only for the IMA program, but for any Masons, it's a team note. Just because it's a church or a lodge or whatever, stone pile out back, people are gravitated to for. Hydrogen number one's the primo. You get up in the morning, you do that, and it makes the drunkard walk problem a hell of a lot easier. Gives you something to actually move around with your mind sometimes too, but you want to pull it down to like Indian country. It's like, screw OSHA, send them to us and pay us the commission for running the safety brief on them, teach them how to do it. We'll put our own out there, but like I said, when you want the expert's hand, where are you going to go? You want to go to the Bluestone. You're not going to go out in the hillside and try to cut that up if you ain't got a 5-foot saw. Or, you can't cut that with you need 11.6, 7-foot saw or something to hit that tread cake. That billet, man. You want a one-piece, what is it, a 4x5 with an extension on the end of it that's 2 foot wide. Oh, yeah, sure, you're just going to make one of those. Come in with a huge-ass reed in it, and you want it honed and rock face down the edge. Well, you want. Oh, but in there, like, you got to go to those guys that can provide that number. So, like I said, send it down there on the long end of it. We'll make that happen.
Carries a lot of the times, and be able to break momentum. Be able to maintain momentum. Be able to carry those things. It's
blind man.
It's timing. It's knowing direct physics on the floor to carry those things. I knew that I had a set. It's got to carry through. I got a set. I'm thinking a certain way. It moves that way. Certain things are locked down by physics, obviously. The timeline, standing around, people, just waiting, just politely kind of doing the thing. It's easy to...
That's the good seed corn right there.
The plays for the floor.
Oh, that's the good stuff on it.
That's just the daily day grind. Blue, she
it's all blockchain.
All the fields. She maintains...
The little
game, she maintains thermaling.
Little wires from Ben Eater that wiggly squiggly away their way around this computer chip in here, whatever this thing is, and there's pallet in here, and from the overhead, it just kind of looks like a circuit board.
Game, she maintains crew game,
Ghosts.
She maintains things are fixed and they're working.
You know, the thing about it, you got electricity, you got to let the hate flow through you. I mean, the Faraday suit electricity. Yeah, that's what I meant.
And they're mechanically working. You have to either understand
Good stuff.
the mechanics, the physics, to process the mechanics more efficiently at that time and space, depending on, you know, what kind of things, where is it? What kind of things you can review off of equally the functions and purposes and models, because that's basically our station analysis report is that, but this squared personality review.
You were doomslaying your way through there, and it was like, not on this level. What are you drinking?
Dynamics and turn burns and things like that.
Physics. Reciprocal numbers.
That person, you have to work with the set. You have to work with the massive combinations of things. If there's other Sawyers in their bays and how things are functioning. And that
then once you find it,
and
you can hit the pause button. Goodbye. No.
The problems that affect and the way we understand terms. Terms
you can. You can. At that point in time.
And frequency, again, are tone and frequency are AMODs because they have a reciprocal in the field.
Good stuff.
And they tone to treads.
You know, a lot of these guys, you know, I'm not talking about any of the other guys. It's not that. What do you got there? Scotty or Bob, you know, Rob, the manager over there at Devonian Stone. Oh, there's some legends. Leonard Rockface and you know, I can go through the list day in, day out, and you know, that's where I watch my numbers, how I learned how to do some of the stuff that I do. And so you really gotta like gatekeeper calculus, you know, some of them are archdemons, some of them are archangel. Oppenheimer, Vishnu, Shiva, Valentine, Buddha, Valentine Rabbit, man, you're gonna become it. That's one of those. Either the rabbit, when, you know, no matter how tore up, beat up you are, it's in there, man, you're indisposable. But on the other end of it, you know, Oppenheimer, I'm becoming death. You could be dead in here. Write your tomb down. This is the Sentinel's walk of Mason, right? You know, it's the tomb of the unknown Mason, because hopefully you could plant your flag there. You could say, from here, 40 years out, that's what I wanted to have happen under this tree, because the cost lines, the math, the physics is pretty much Fermilab over here. This is a railgun you use every day to shoot tractor trailers full of rock out.
Inch and a half for the sets in the order, super string theory, super stack dimension, or anyways, got a little off topic. I wanted to stay on that one, damn. But again, you know, just
they'll come back around.
You know, in psychology, you have to know it. And then you act accordingly to the moves on the field, because it's a Force MA problem, not just the chessboard. Not just this king or bishop or rook or any other thing. They all apply to gravity. They all apply to the function of gravity and dark matter. And the things you can...
Again, the thing I love about general relativity is this statement. If general relativity really solves all problems, you wouldn't have any problem. So clearly, it has some issues. Well, quantum mechanics ain't no better, because they're going to say, oh, well, we can't bridge the gap between that and general relativity, though. So, I mean, I guess that's to say a stonemason that can't figure it out. Go on.
Are based on mere forces and timelines and functions that are not. So what do you pick up on? What do you keep your laser beam? What's it?
I know.
What's it doing?
Animal.
How's it functioning? What does the application and implications of that function represent? Because that is what you do on the floor. That is what the mechanics of the operations of those sets are. But they don't argue. They only argue the physical limit.
Some days you become the plow. They don't argue, but you know, all the time when you're riding a horse in the stable at the show, you want to win. You know, you don't want to hurt the horse, because that's gonna hurt the win, save the quality quantity, of course. You know, the quality of the trophy, the quantity of the trophy, and how heavy it is before you pull a hernia. Good for you. On the outside, though, but you know, it's like in their stable. I don't know why that horse kicked you in the head. Why were you in their stable? I mean, seriously. It's like, normally that horse does fine. It does great. I don't know.
This is the time, this is the equipment, this is the job, this is the setup, this is the function. So they would function accordingly inside of that. For me, it's always been the one, people, I'm just a buck. I'm a sweetheart, though, and it's hard for people to gauge talking to me. Just walk right up to me. Jordan.
When it comes to certain things with the local PD, general ground law, Haven Ways, you look at a lot of the time court cases, and most of these brothers are going to know something about it, one way, shape, or form or the other. Probably an expert across the hand for all the fingers, job tasks and other things like that. They've seen firsthand the process, and I know this one has. So, I know a lot of the other ones, and there's different departments of what those things are, and some of them may be pretty salty over there at, shock and other things. Not necessarily something I saw, but you can get a lot of that shock, and the muscle shock, body shock, and why some of the differentials are still just as fucking hard over here on certain things, when you can break a lot of people, you can, at the top line, if on a very new type of person, or even an old operation where they've been there longer, but the overhead's different, it's a shock. And temperature differentials, voltage drops, and electron surges can absolutely blow capacitors and stuff. So without really understanding that, for me, it's like you should be able to take certain criteria. It's like, well, let's dust this off. I remember being on probation for this site right here. And a lot of the things that are beneficial to good behavior come from here. It is very hard to play the game right doing this kind of thing on top of it, because it's hard. Go harder, work harder, the probation officer to say a thing, when there can be some serious heavy-duty lines in there that kind of show your work ethic, that kind of show your value, to give you a little bit more for certain differentials, and certainly on the clock site for what those things do, to represent your own case. Now later on, we can talk about some real stuff, time work fraud case, nullifying juries. The reason this presentation, not to say it nullifies them so you'll win the case, it says this case should have been won. In case a scenario where the trial name of the event, MOS, computer chip, or job detail, how the pins are together, fix pins into there, kind of go to that jury. This is how that nullifies this type of action from that. For me, it was smoking pot, getting a pot garden, a lot of biology, a lot of science, a lot of engineering, mainlining, bonsaiing. It takes a lot of work, a lot of skill. It's an artistry to it. It takes a time space. So time, space, rock, matter, time turns to space, space turns to time, and those things matter. So you get a lot of that. Where it's big, it has manufacturing turns on it, like Green Revolution, whether it's any of that, or a blueberry mulberry bush, or whatever.
Oh, brother. And hopefully I've done a lot of this, so it does both, but at the same time, there's always holes in it. There's always misunderstandings, and trying to work and trying to be correct in the function, as dynamic and correct to the function as necessary.
Where you going, Tom? You stay.
And with respect towards what would be gravity towards my life. Remember, you're playing not just, this is a game against the
No.
Every little thing that's an NP timeline function is a zero on the clock in quantum mechanics. And just like these two over here, it's a general and an aspect of an idea of a conservation of information, a time parallel that says
robot.
there might
Beep,
be
beep.
more to it than just the general and how those plays work on
But
the
we're two
ground,
different people. I mean,
civilians
we're doing two different jobs right there. We might be working on the same operation. Those saws are different. The table's different. Floor's different. Flowage. Oh, yeah.
The model is based in physics.
Beep, beep.
It's all processed so the dimensions are correct in 3, so that way it will move in 4.
When you start to see squared, seeing it in 3D is just another step to the fourth dimension in 2D land.
But if you understand, you understand.
It's at 45. Oh, well.
My sniffer's on it too. Sweet. Who's up? Catch you on the next one.